I'm 34, and my world has been turned upside down with everything that has been happening. Before I give you guys the backstory, the people in this story are my sister, Sasha, 32, female, and my ex husband, Greg, 35, male. Backstory: I still remember the day I met Greg like it was yesterday. It was our first day of college, and I was feeling nervous and a little overwhelmed by the new environment. I walked into our English class and took a seat in the front row, hoping to make a good impression on the professor. That's when I noticed him. He wore this flaming red shirt that immediately drew my eyes towards him when I was walking in. He was sitting a few rows back, and I caught him looking at me a few times during the class. I was a little creeped out during my class because I could feel his eyes on me often, but when the class was over and we bumped into one another while leaving, I realized that he was not trying to be a creep. Despite looking like a jock, he was a bit of a dork. He got tongue-tied, and instead of picking up his papers that fell on the floor, he power walked away from me. I picked those up, and that was what led us to talking. The more we spoke, the more I realized what a genuine guy he was. He was cute, he was sweet, he was perfect. We spent a lot of time together trying to build our friendship first before he asked me out for a date. Our date was at a cafe on campus. It was the perfect date when we were just friends. We spoke a lot, but our date honestly brought us closer. I felt this connection with him that I had not felt with anybody else. We got into a relationship soon after that, and that relationship lasted for about 5 years before he asked me to marry him. When he did, I was overjoyed. I knew this was the perfect person for me. It felt so fulfilling to have someone special like this. We informed our families about our engagement, and when we did, I noticed something. My sister Sasha was not happy with the announcement at all. Sasha and I were polar opposites. She had always been the one who was more popular with boys while I was a nerd. It was expected by everyone that Sasha would be the one to find her partner before me. I suppose somewhere Sasha truly believed that as well, because when she heard about my engagement with Greg, she could not mask the pain she felt. It was clear that she was not happy with our engagement. My parents forced her to come, and she was not having it. I got married when I was 24, but things were not that simple. We had been married for about a year and a few months when I started noticing his strange behavior. He was coming home late. He would not tell me where he was going. He would not pick up his phone when I called him, and he would stay out for dinner often. His business trips became more and more frequent, and I did not know what to do. I called my mother and told her about how I was feeling regarding this whole thing. Sasha was living with Mom, and when she learned about this, she showed up at my house. She asked me all the questions, like how long this had been going on, have I noticed any prior signs, etc. And once I had answered everything, Sasha told me that it could be that Greg is cheating on me. She told me that as she had dated a lot of guys since she was in high school, she knows the signs of a cheater when she sees one. She asked me if I would like her to follow my husband and see if things were like that or not. I begged her to help me out because I could not bring myself to do it. She followed him for about 3 of his business trips, and she told me that he does not go out of town. He books a room in the hotel that is downtown and stays there. He checks in alone, and after a few hours, a woman usually goes up to his room. I could not believe her. She gave me the information about the hotel, and the next time there was one of his business trips. I followed him. I saw him check into the hotel with my own eyes. Seeing him check in at the hotel was proof enough for me. I came home, packed my things. I left him. I have not spoken with Greg ever since then. Sasha was there for me through everything. I could not have thanked her enough. So when Sasha got pregnant by a deadbeat, I decided I would financially help her in whichever way I could, as my parents refused to help her. I have been helping her for about 5 years now. Incident. As Sasha and her baby daddy co-parented, their son was living with his father. Sasha came over to my place with a bottle of wine unannounced. It was my wedding anniversary that day, and over the past 5 years, I have been watching my wedding video every year on my wedding anniversary. I never quite got over Greg. I could not understand why he cheated on me, and the way Sasha explained why men cheat. I knew I could not bear to hear him say all those things. When Sasha came in, she was pretty drunk. She had Ubered to my place. I brought her up to my apartment and planted her on the couch when Sasha noticed the paused video on the TV. She stared at the TV for a while and said that Greg was really handsome. I agreed, and then said that I thought he would seem less handsome in my eyes after I learned he cheated, but that never happened. Sasha piped up, saying that Greg never cheated. I asked her what she meant, and in her drunken stupor, Sasha tried to backtrack, but when I screamed at her, she broke down. Greg was never cheating on me. He went to the hotel, yes, but there was never a woman who went up to his room. Hearing that shocked me. I asked Sasha why she lied to me, and Sasha accepted that she was jealous. Me getting married before her made her feel insecure, so she decided to do what she did. Hearing her accept all of that broke me. I called her an Uber and sent her back home. She did not want to leave, but I did not want to listen. Since then, Sasha has been calling me several times and left several voicemails saying that I should not blame her for being so insecure. If just her words were enough to break my trust in Greg, I should have never married him in the first place, etc. I do not know what I'm supposed to do anymore. I have not told my parents about it, but Sasha has. She told them that I have kicked her out, so now everyone is calling me the a-hole. And I have to say, I do feel like the a-hole for breaking up with Greg the way I did. Update 1. Hey everyone. Thank you for reading my venting and giving me such kind advice. I felt so bad for ditching Greg the way I did. I feel like I did not respect the love we had. I feel like Sasha is right that I should have never married him if my trust in him was so fragile. I feel like a bad person. I feel terrible, to be honest. On top of that, my mom and dad think I kicked a drunk Sasha out of my house for no reason, so they've been tearing me a new one. I'm considering telling them the reality of the situation, but at the same time, I feel like I should be embarrassed with how gullible I acted when it came to my marriage. I'm going to go to therapy starting tomorrow. I feel so shitty. On top of that, as I have been helping Sasha out with money, she's been leaving voicemails asking me to send her money for the utilities, and I just do not know what I'm supposed to do. Things are overwhelming me. Update 2. Hey everyone, sorry this post took a while. I spoke with my therapist and they suggested that I speak with Greg if I feel like my guilt is eating me alive. It was so I decided to reach out to him. It was very difficult to find out where he was because he changed his number and he was never one of those socially active people. I found his mother's Facebook and reached out to her. She was very upset with me, understandably. When I explained the whole situation and begged her to give Greg my number because I would like closure, she told me she would consider it. 3 days after that, Greg reached out to me. He suggested we meet for coffee and discuss everything. When we did, it seemed like we went back in time and it was like our first date again. He was early and I was right on time. When I entered, he looked at me the way he looked at me that day, and I was too overwhelmed to speak for a while. We started talking about small things, and then finally we spoke about why we were there. I told him everything that Sasha did, and I told him how sorry I was for not letting him explain his side to me. Greg understood why I felt the way I felt, and he told me that he had forgiven me a long time ago. He explained that he only went to the hotel to sleep. As he got married, he picked up new shifts, which led to him coming home late and missing dinner. Then, when he came home, he did not want me to feel ignored, so he would spend time with me. He was running out of time to properly sleep. Plus, as I have a sinus problem, he was struggling to sleep properly at night. So when one of his coworkers suggested that he stayed a night in a hotel, sleeping off his sleep debt, he thought it was a good idea. At first, he thought he would do it once, but slowly it became something he did frequently. He explained that he blamed himself for a long time because he felt like, had he told me what he was doing in the hotel, I would have never misunderstood him. Hearing his reasoning made me feel so stupid. I felt like, had I spoken with him before, it would have saved both of us the trouble. I thanked him for the closure, and as I was leaving, he told me he never moved on, and that if I am willing to forgive him now, he would like to take me out on a date again. I could not give him an answer, and I left. Once I was home, I told my parents everything. They were shocked. Sasha never told them that she was the one who was doing all the investigation for me. She told them that I saw Greg with someone, which I never did. My parents told me that they will have a talk with Sasha. I told them to let Sasha know that I will no longer help her with my money from that day onwards. I feel like I did good because that guilt that was burdening me is no longer on my shoulders. Update 3. To everyone happy to hear me speaking with Greg again, we are talking now. We're working on our issues and we are planning on taking it slow to see where we end up. I have gone no contact with Sasha, so I cannot update you guys on that. I heard that my parents went off on her and kicked her out of the house as she was living with them, so that is it. Poor OP, your NTA. You believed what your sister told you. You would believe your family member over anyone. That is normal. Sasha is the a-hole for lying and ruining your relationship. NTA, OP. Also, your husband is probably sleeping in the hotel. I recently saw a post where a man explained that due to kids, he could not sleep at home properly, so he simply started sleeping in hotel rooms just to get rid of the sleep debt. Chances are your husband did the same thing. I think you should have a talk with him. As far as Sasha is concerned, wow, she is a bitch. Not only did she ruin your marriage, but she is also living off your money. Does she have no shame or what? Edit. Saw the updates and I just want to say, I called it. Greg honestly seemed too in love with OP to cheat on her. I hope they get back together. Next story. In spring 2017, my boyfriend and I bought a house together. He had given his mom a key. I would start coming home to find that she had changed things. She took down my curtains and put up ones she liked instead, or she put up decor or took down decor. Sometimes I'd come home only to find her there, or she would walk straight into our bedroom or bathroom, and she'd snoop through my medications and belongings. She also is a hoarder. I'm talking TLC style and very, very dirty. We've now had our house fumigated 5 times. 2 times for roaches, 2 times for bed bugs, and 1 time for fleas. After she's been over and brought boxes of crap over. Around 2020, after the last fumigation, I started having panic attacks at the prospect of people coming over or being in the house. I mean, full-blown seeing specks in my vision, hyperventilating, feeling like the world will end type of panic attacks. So I set a rule. Nobody, not my friends or family or his, enter the house unless it's absolutely must be done. The only people in the house are me and him. Well, on New Year's Day, my Ring app goes off and I see 3 unfamiliar cars at my house while I'm at work. I see his mom, brother, girlfriend, sister, brother-in-law, 2 nephews, uncle, and 3 cousins going into my house. I immediately get thrown into a panic attack. I start repeatedly calling his phone from both my phone and the store phone, and he's sending it to voicemail. My managers had to call the pharmacist over, and they were debating on calling an ambulance because they said my blood pressure was at lethal levels, and I was close to a stroke. When I finally get myself pulled together, I decide to just clock out and go home. It's probably about 2 hours later at this point. I find that my frog's vivarium door is opened. All my bookshelf stuff is moved, my religious altars are touched, and the house is a pigsty. I asked him why he would totally disrespect the one thing I asked of him and disregard my well being like that. He just keeps saying, "It's not people, it's my folks. I didn't bring people in the house, it was my folks." I tried to tell him how bad the panic attack was, and he said, "That's because you're crazy. You're stupid and crazy, and now you're the crazy person of store two." We didn't talk for almost a week. I posted in a group about anxiety and panic attacks about it. But everyone said I was abusive for not allowing people in the house because he pays bills too, so I'm abusing him and isolating him. Side note, does see his family about 2 times a month, and I was the one that told him to see them more. We live about an hour away from them, and he was only seeing them maybe 2 times a year. We go see them, go to his sister's house, go out to eat, go do things together. AITA for not allowing anyone, including family, in the house after catching boyfriend's mom snooping and changing my decor several times and having to fumigate our house 5 times, causing severe panic attacks due to her being unkempt. NTA, you didn't set up these boundaries because you were crazy. You set them because your personal and private property was suffering as a direct result of people coming and interfering in your space. Add to that the mental issue compounded by a very real pandemic making everyone more on edge in this kind of regard. Is a complete ban on people a bit extreme? Absolutely. Do the circumstances here warrant it? Quite possibly. I'd be pretty miffed myself if I'd had to pay multiple times to have my place fumigated as a direct result of someone coming over uninvited. NTA have no idea why these other people are allowed so freely in your home. They should not have keys. And leave your boyfriend. Calling you crazy is straight up gaslighting. A good friend just got out of a marriage with a husband who was doing the same thing to her. She waited too long. And it took over 2 years for the divorce to be settled. But now she's free. Look after yourself. Opinion 3. NTA. I was iffy until I saw bed bugs. If anyone gave me those once, let alone twice, I would never, ever interact with them again. Next story. I, 20, female, am going to college, but I'm on winter break right now, so I'm at home with my dad, 47, stepmom, 45, and younger sister, 15. My dad enjoys going to a casino every once in a while. It's never been an issue where he's made a stupid decision and lost any more than $100 in a night, and he doesn't do it very frequently. So when he said he was going to go to a casino with a few of his work friends on New Year's Eve, none of us questioned it. According to what he told me, he drank too much, made a bunch of stupid bets, and then found himself $20,000 poorer than when he'd gotten there. I guess at that point he decided he was just going to cut his losses. So he left and went home. He didn't mention anything about it for the week after, until yesterday when he came up to my bedroom and explained that story to me. He also said he had texted his friends and asked if they had any way he could quickly recoup at least enough of that to pay rent. 2000, I think. And one of them sent him a link to some kind of website where you can sell hair to make wigs for sick people with cancer and they'll pay you for it. I asked him how much, and he said that if I were to sell my hair, it would be around $2,100. My hair is obscenely long and thick. I told him I didn't want to do that, and he responded by attempting to assure me that I would have a really cute and stylish pixie cut. You wouldn't have to shave it. I told him no again. I'm not going to cut off basically all of my hair and sell it, especially if I'm not even personally getting money for it. He told me that in order to even make $1,000, both my sister and stepmom would have to shave completely bald. So I was being really selfish for allowing two other women to take on that responsibility. I told him he probably should just sell a couch or something before making his wife and daughter go bald to his gambling habits, but regardless, it wasn't on me to fix. He told me that by dinner tomorrow, so today, this conversation took place yesterday, I was either going to have short hair or I wouldn't be welcome in his home anymore. I left. I feel kind of bad about not helping him, especially since it's a vain reason to begin with, but I don't know. AITA? NTA, this is a stupid solution to a problem he created, and a temporary one. He'll still be 18,000 in debt. What does he expect to do for next rent or utilities or groceries? This also is not your responsibility. Your dad made bad choices and now he needs to deal with the consequences. He needs to find a way to make rent and build back his own debt. Not put that burden on you and guilt you for it as if it's your fault. It's not, it's his. If this is how your dad approached this a week after the fact, then it wasn't the drinks that led him to the stupid decisions. It seems like that's just his way of life. You're better off walking away from that. NTA, but although you can make money, you aren't likely to get that much money. It looks like a lot of sites are scams. Your father is awful. Next story. My dad died when I was 6. My mom was with another guy a few months later. She had my 2 half siblings with him and then he bailed. She met my stepdad when I was 9 and they got married fast. My half siblings love him and call him Dad. A year after they got married, he wanted to adopt all 3 of us. I said no, but they kept going. Only I was spoken to before the adoption could happen, and I told the judge I didn't want to be adopted. So he said he would approve my half siblings' adoption, but not mine. They decided not to go ahead with it and try again. They did not actually get before a judge when they tried again 2 years later because they saw what I had said before and decided to deny the request. Adoption was shelved because they couldn't get anywhere. I still don't want him to be my dad legally. He's not who I call dad. I don't love him, and I don't want to do it for any legal stuff either. My half siblings are being adopted again, and after some delays, my mom and stepdad wanted me to change my last name so we could all have the same family name. I told them I didn't want to change my name, so they delayed the adoption date twice and tried to convince me. The new date is in a few months and they are going in on the topic. My stepdad told me I rejected him as a legal dad. I could at least take his name. I told him I want my dad's name, not his. My mom then added pressure, saying how much it would mean to them, how he has been a good dad to us when we didn't have ours, how I should want the same name as her also since we've had different names since she remarried. I told her she should love me enough not to push it, and she should love Dad enough to not want his only kid to have his name replaced by some other man. She told me that I was being insensitive. My stepdad was all kinds of pissed that I would bring up Dad that way, and he's bitter that I don't want to have his name or to be his son. Things are so freaking tense now. I've still got 2 years left of living here. I'm 16. So I'm stuck here in a house where nobody is happy right now. So I want to know if I'm TA for it. NTA, I think if you don't want to have his name then, being 16, I think you're old enough to decide to not change it. Whatever happens, good luck and best wishes, OP. NTA, wow, they're being really inconsiderate and it's not fair to you. You're old enough to make the decision. It shouldn't be forced on you. It's just a name. You want to keep your legal birth name, and that is okay. I'm sure it may make you feel closer to your dad as well. That's something that they should understand and feel compassion for. I think that they are being selfish and only thinking of themselves and not you. You matter. Your feelings matter. If he really cared about you, he would understand why you don't want to take his last name. It's nothing against him. He needs to stop taking it personally and view it from your perspective. Stay tuned for more stories from Argo Relationships.